Welcome to Home Health Revealed podcast. I'm your host, Mike Greenlee, and like always, unfortunately, sometimes I've got my co-host here, Hannah Vale. Hannah, what is happening?
I'm the best thing that's ever happened, Mike. Things have been great. Dealing with some flu. I hear
Yeah.
the entire country has been dealing with flu, but so have I. So I'm happy to be back to the land of the living.
Well, I told you yesterday you should drink tequila. If you drink tequila on a nightly basis, your doctor's going to frown upon it, that you won't get the flu.
You know, chamomile tea is probably more my drink of choice at the minute. But hey, I'll let you go with your theory and I'll stick with mine.
Well, back in the days when John Wayne, you remember John Wayne?
No.
What? You don't know John Wayne?
Already
Candice, do you
know.
know John Wayne?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He was a
Yeah.
legendary guy. Now, some people got upset with him about the war or something like that. But I don't know all that story. But
Yeah.
John Wayne, back in the day, when men were real men,
Yeah.
they drank whiskey, and that's how they got over it. I mean, that was their NyQuil. I'm just taking best practices.
Yeah.
So I got to share a story before we get started here. It's
Okay,
an
let's hear
interesting
it.
story. I'll even ask you guys the question. I think 7 out of 10 people would answer it the way I think you guys may answer it. But it was really interesting. It took me down this rabbit hole. Here we go. Hannah and Kandice, what was Jesus's last name?
Christ.
Christ. Yeah.
I told you. I knew it. I knew you'd say that. So it's kind of funny. We were watching a little sermon the other day, and people said, well, like people call Jesus Christ, and like so they think his last name's Christ, right?
Yeah.
And so I went to my kids. I have 3 girls, 21, 18, and 12, and I said, hey, what's Jesus' last name? They all just screamed out Christ, and I thought it was funny. And so then it led me down this path that like actually in the Bible that they're just reading like Michael, son of this, or like they don't have last names. So that's what took me down the rabbit hole of when did last names start and why did they start? Now, according to the Google, all right, I haven't researched it further than the Google, but it said that basically when people from England came over here, they started last names because of land ownership, which makes sense.
So you're talking about American last names.
Well, I mean, I think everybody has last names now, right? I mean, do you know anybody that doesn't?
But some of them are more like maternally driven and ours are paternally driven.
Interesting question that you guys never even thought of that.
That's true.
All the times reading the Bible, you guys probably never ask yourself, what's Jesus' last name?
Never.
Nope.
Yeah.
The one and only.
All right. See what today brought you guys? It's genius. All right. Well, we got a great show for you today.
Yeah. So Kandice Stanley is with us, and she has over 22 years of diverse healthcare experience. Kandice is an RN. She's dedicated her life to improving patient care. And as the director of patient care services at ThriveWell at Home, Kandice is on a mission to revolutionize how caregivers are treated and compensated. Her extensive background spans roles in nursing, patient advocacy, and home care management, making her uniquely positioned to lead this change. Kandice believes that caregivers are the heart of home care. She's committed to ensuring they receive the recognition, respect, and fair compensation they deserve. Quote from Kandice is this, and I love what she says: caregivers are the foundation of healthcare at home. It is time they're treated with the dignity and support that reflect their essential role in patient lives. At ThriveWell at Home, Kandice is focused on transforming the caregiving industry by implementing innovative practices that elevate patient outcomes and caregiver experiences. And in this particular episode, we are going to be talking about the memory care market. Now, the memory care market, Michael, as you are aware, is experiencing significant growth and is expected to continue expanding in the coming years. And when I say market, we're talking about a people market, an opportunity really to serve people. And the market.
Wait a minute. What are we talking about?
Memory care.
Get it? Okay.
You forgot already.
I thought it was funny. I said it earlier. I still think it's funny.
So the U.S. memory care market was valued at $5.82 billion in 2022, but it is projected to reach $8.61 billion by 2030, which is just 5 years away, growing significantly. And then more recently, some estimates say it could reach over $11 billion by 2033. Over 40% of individuals above the age of 65 in the US live with memory impairment. 40%, Michael. That is nearly half. That is staggering to me.
Yeah.
equating to about 16 million people. And I think, Kandice, you'll give us some updated stats. But in assisted living facilities, which today we're focusing on home health, but I just want to give this because I think it's very relevant. About 70% of residents have some form of cognitive impairment. In one of the recent, so I believe this came out in 2022, was the last update of some of these stats that I was able to pull. By 2025, so that's right now, the U.S. is going to need 156,000 new assisted living facilities to meet growing demand. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I drive around and I see different assisted living facilities popping up all the time. Some of them are, touted as like a 55 and older, and then they will tack on a memory care unit or something like that. But with that growing at this alarming rate, I mean, we're going to need some additional facilities.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny about that? You can build the nicest, newest place and people still want to stay at their home, so, and then also as somebody, the disease starts to progress, being in their home is actually good for them. Sometimes when you move them into an assisted facility, a living facility, or into a nursing home, you can kind of, disrupt their routine. And as your memory fades, your routine becomes really, really important. So, as they may be these beautiful places and we may need more of them, but people still want to just be in their home. But one of the things you said about why is the demand so high, I think because there's a lot of behaviors and there's a lot of caregiver burnout. So people can't care for that person in the home. And, dementia, it presents very differently for very different people. And it's hard to see. It's hard to see mom change in that way. So we do rely on these places because we don't have the knowledge and the skills to be able to care for them at home.
Is there any stats or anything around? I'm just always interested in this kind of stuff. Is that assisted living residents? Do you find that because they're part of a group or there's other people around them, and they stay a little bit more active, that they live longer? I mean, is there versus maybe in the home?
I think it depends on the programming. So there's some really great national companies that do it so well. So I can use one. For example, Belmont Village has this program called Circle of Friends. So it's basically like a club they go to 5-6 hours a day. And that socialization and that really specific activities that they have geared towards preserving their independence can be great. I mean, it's great. But here's the problem. That's a great place. It's very expensive. But can the normal person, can I pay for my mom to go there? And that answer is no. So yeah, there are really great programs out there, but available to everyone is that's the tricky part.
Yeah. Now, there is a lot of talk on the political scene of the food we eat.
Yes.
And you mentioned a lot of, this is a growing number, right? And we are the most unhealthy people for, you know what I mean? And a lot of it is due to the food and the stuff that's in our food. So does that fascinate you? And as you're studying this stuff, does that capture your attention to say, wow, this is kind of fascinating, or look into that a little bit deeper?
Absolutely. And if you kind of want to do some interesting research, in the US, we call it Alzheimer's, but across in the world, they call it diabetes 3, just so you know. So there's some correlation with, diet, glucose levels, and Alzheimer's. The problem is we don't have anything that's definitive, that's like, yes, this is what causes it, and this is what you can do to prevent it. But absolutely, nutrition definitely plays a role. And I think we as Americans don't view it as a diabetic disease, but in the country and in the world, they do. So
diabetes 3, I've never heard that.
Yeah.
I haven't either, but it's very interesting. And I know at ThriveWell, you guys do think about everything holistically.
Would you mind sharing with us a brief overview of ThriveWell's mission in home healthcare?
So our mission is to glorify God by bringing more love and better health to those we serve. And it's not just a mission, it's in our DNA. One of our owners are Dr. Jessica and Gordon Chin of Chin Medical. This is a project that they did on the side, really kind of as a way to give back to the community. We based all of our holistic care on the 5 drivers of health and wellness, which is community, spirituality, nutrition. We take all of these types of really important attributes that make us whole. Finding someone's purpose. When you get to be older, having a purpose is really important. So we train our aides not to just treat the person, but to treat them holistically. How much sleep are you getting? How many steps are you getting in? These are all questions that we ask our clients, and that we try to modify and make sure they're getting good night rest, they're getting nutrition. If they want to go to church, that we're making sure that they're getting that spiritual, appetite fed for them to keep them whole. And what we've learned is that, you don't have to be a doctor or a nurse to be a caregiver or a healer. So really taking these caregivers and empowering them to be healers. I mean, they're the ones protecting our most valuable assets, our aging community. So, and historically, I think the one thing that we at ThriveWell really hang our hats on is we want to provide them with an opportunity for growth. So career path growth. We want to give them benefits, paid time off, pay them great rate wages. That's just not an industry standard for home care aides. And then also supporting them. So we're right there with them. I'm 24/7. They can text me and I'll go in the home if they need me. So it's having that support so they don't feel like they're on an island.
Yeah, my biggest concern is and I was just thinking through this as you were talking, not that I wasn't listening. But it's like you see, the world we live in today, a lot of people are on social media. And there are a lot of single parents that when their kids kind of grow up and go out of the home, they're kind of just at their house, and and if they eventually end up retiring, they got nothing to do, right? Or they're not active, right? And you talk about glorifying God, and God's mission is companionship, being with people, right? It's not good to be alone. That's when the Satan starts to attack people, right? When they're by themselves and stuff like that, when they don't have someone to go to, or a mentor or somebody like that. So I think this is going to continue to grow. Just when I think about what's happening today in the single market and stuff like that, it's kind of concerning.
Yeah. And you mentioned the sandwich generation. So my daughter's about to go to college, and I'm going to be an empty nester. My son's a few years behind her, but my mom's starting to slip now, right? Oh, I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast. Yeah. my mom's starting to slip. She's getting older, and you worry like, wow, I'm going to have to start caring for her now.
Yeah.
So my life isn't really going to be my life. It's going to be now caregiving for my parent. And that is affecting so many Americans right now. And it's usually the female daughter that gets burdened with that care. And families. Dr. Gordon and Jessica Chin, they were the CEO and CMO of Chin Medical, which is a national corporation which specializes in taking seniors and usually underdeveloped populations and managing their care and giving them, just great care, this kind of community doctor kind of care. So they've done great at making people live longer already. So now this philosophy is they opened ThriveWell, and we have a few different service lines. One is our home care, which is ThriveWell at Home. And then they have a clinic that they just opened called Blue, and it's a longevity health clinic. This isn't a med spa. This is science-based data to help you live longer. For instance, I'd come in, we'd do a bone scan and an organ fat scan. So we'd see your bone density, and then we do exercise testing on you. And we could literally put you in a program that 3 months from now, we could say, we just added 2 years to your life. So
I should probably check my liver.
But no, Michael, isn't that so cool? So you go in and you do this assessment, and they would say, okay, based on these stats, right, we anticipate you will live to be 73, 75, whatever. But if we do these things, we can add this much time onto your life.
Yep. Yep.
That's
And
pretty
then
cool.
6 months later, we retest you and you can actually see the difference. So instead of going to the gym to work out to lose weight, you're literally incentivized now because you're doing this to live longer. So
Is that not the craziest thing?
I'll have to
Well,
get you
yeah.
guys here for it. When we have we'll have to fly you in so you can see it. It's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
I want to
Pretty
do the test
impressive.
because I think I'm going down around 60 right now. So got to add a couple of years, like 20.
But so I love all the things that ThriveWell is doing, and I've been so inspired by the conversations that we've had, because I think what you're doing is very important, and it's different, it's unique, it meets care in a different way. But one of the really unique things that ThriveWell is doing is surrounding memory care. And with all the growing stats that we just talked about and the aging population experiencing dementia and Alzheimer's, can you talk about a compassionate approach to memory care that promotes dignity and meaningful connections?
Yeah, absolutely. So we developed our Thrive Bright Dementia Care Program, and basically what we use, we there's a lot of experts on dementia care, and Teepa Snow being one of them, Dr. Al Powers. There's even Dr. Cameron. Um, I'll get her last name for you. She does a Montessori for dementia. So like Montessori program for patients with dementia. So there's all of these amazing leaders and philosophies out there. So what we did was we took that information, and then based on our everyday experience and our knowledge of what works, what doesn't work, we kind of developed our own system. We go to describe the different levels of dementia. The most progressive level, when you're nonverbal, we call that the black level. So it's basically our black stage, which is the absence of light. But we use our caregivers as a metaphor to bring the light. So even in the end stages of dementia, if you have the right caregiver, you can turn on that light. So we kind of train our caregivers to be the light that you want to see in the world, and that's what they're doing. They're focusing on the things that the person still has. So we go into that type of dementia training, and then we give them real life tools, scenarios, best practices. Basically, we try to fill up their toolboxes with things that work. One example would be if somebody is saying the same story over and over and over again. It's taking that cleansing deep breath after they've asked you 23 times and doing the deep breath in and out, and then answering them simply yes again, the same question. But it's that putting the oxygen on your mask first when you start to feel agitated or upset. And this goes not only for our caregivers, but we want to teach families to do this too, to be able to communicate. Another example would be when you have somebody with dementia, asking them, what did you have for breakfast? That can be hard for them to remember. And then now you've kind of put it on display that they don't remember. So, hey, mom, did you have pancakes for breakfast? That's a yes or no. And she can kind of save her dignity in that conversation. Because what you will see as people start to recognize that they're losing their abilities and that they're not answering correctly, they'll start to not talk more, or they'll start to get nonverbal because they're afraid of what they may say, or that they're going to say something wrong. So you really want to keep that encouragement going, and open-ended questions can be difficult.
Now, you have some care models
Yeah.
that I want to talk about. Before we dive into some of the care models, I just have a personal question. The word holistic, do you find that people struggle with that word?
Yes, I do, because it means so much for different people. It to a med spa, it means something different than to somebody with end stage cancer looking for different types of treatments. So I think it's a very broad term, but in its sense, if you can say, what is the purpose, and basically purpose and community and spirituality, I would say, are the top three that can really determine somebody's success as they age, that
Yeah.
support system, that purpose. And those are like probably the three main ones, I would say.
Share with us just a little bit about these care models and what you're seeing and how they're working.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to pull this up, if you guys don't mind, real quick.
People do watch, on the YouTube version, they can take a look if they want to.
So these are our 5 drivers of health and wellness. And basically, it's what we base our holistic care on. So you go into your personal, which is your purpose, your priorities. Is there a plan? Community, are you engaged? Do you have, a support system? Empowerment is under community. And then physical. Do you sleep well? Are you getting exercise? What's your strength levels? Nutritional, we as a foundation like to use what we call the MRS philosophy, which is mostly plant-based, real whole foods, and then stop before you're full. And that's based on the blue zones of longevity. It's a Japanese tactic to only eat till you're 80% full. And then spiritual, meditation, mindfulness, motivation. These are all of, the main purposes when we go in to meet with families and when we're going to care for loved ones. I'm trying to get my screen unsaved here. These are the things that we're looking at. How did you sleep last night? Can we do some strength training? We actually have, what's really amazing, we do a restorative therapy program. So our aides can come in and do passive range of motions with mom. They're literally doing physical therapy, not, certified physical therapy, but safe ways to do range of motion to keep people active. We tried to get away from the appearance. I know a lot of aides, you go and it's like you have the aide there who's babysitting grandma while she's watching Wheel of Fortune. That's what we really wanted to step out of. So we wanted this person to be a healer, to identify, hey, she's not sleeping at night. Maybe we can give some melatonin. Just call me up. And so there are things that we can do. And then also to have that person, connect intentionally with the families. We love to just get to where an aide and a client really have that symbiotic relationship, and that aide feels like family. So continuity of care is very important to us when it comes to that.
And you guys do like some matchmaking there.
Yeah, we will. So we have little profiles that we make of our aides. And so if a family is choosing an aide, we can give her 2 or 3 different profiles so she can see a little bit about their personality. It's a really cool thing that we do so they can kind of preview. Now, if we put a private duty in and it's not working, we're going to keep trying to get that right because we really want that relationship to form, because that's when you get kind of the magic. So what we can see is, okay, this is our ideal caregiver. This is how they track, so that we can take the applicant and we can scientifically say this is a good match personality wise for the role that they're going to be doing.
And then you do a follow-up rating, right? Of like the family, the patient side, and the caregiver side.
Yeah. So when we start a case, we will interview the family and the caregiver. So I'll call my caregiver after the case. 1 out of 10. What did you feel? I mean, if it's not an 8 or a 9 for the caregiver, then that's not a match on their end either. So I really want the client and the caregiver to be, 8, 9 out of 10 every single time.
Which I think is really unique to this industry, because you're not just sending a person who can do a task. And a lot of times you're even providing overnight care or live-in.
Yeah, we do live-in overnight. It depends on, so for instance, a live-in would be good with a case where somebody sleeps through the night. But if you have a client that maybe wakes up through the night and is at risk for wandering or leaving the house, then you would want an aide that's awake during the night. So we kind of come in and customize that and make it work to the person and the family.
And part of your mission, I know personally, in the work that you do with ThriveWell, is promoting these caregivers. So talk about the ThriveWell champions and why you call them that.
Yeah. So our ThriveWell champions are what we call our caregivers. And we have CNAs and HHAs that we hire. In 2025, I'm hoping to start our own school so we can train our own CNAs. I think if you have the light and you want to be a caregiver, then we want you on our team. But we hire them with this Wonderlic testing, and then we put them through orientation. And our orientation is, we give them about 3 hours worth of dementia training. And then we fill them with our standards, which we have service standards that we believe are what set us apart from other organizations, because we are just really, we live and die by our service standards. So we embrace them. We really try to get them indoctrinated into our service standards. And then, so that's about 8 hours of training that we do. And then we have ongoing training. So every quarter we meet with them. And one thing that's really great about our talent pool is that because we get to know them so well, I can kind of identify, okay, this person would like to do administrative work, or this person really loves dementia care. So as we grow, I can take these aides that are really great in their areas and utilize them to train the other caregivers, just to bring them in to this community and to help us, complete our mission as we grow. So there is an opportunity for them to move up with us. We like to grow our own. And so if they want to, go all the way up, then we're willing to have them with us do that.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Alzheimer's.
Yes.
If we can switch gears a little bit here. Now, my wife says I have sometimers. I don't know if that's a real thing, but I'm thinking it might be. But in all seriousness, the Alzheimer's disease is something that's expected to double by 2050.
Yeah.
Along with the cost, again, associated with that. So tell me a little bit about what developments are coming down the pipe for those that could be suffering or with Alzheimer's, or maybe there's even early signs of that.
It's kind of where we're waiting, but right now I think some of the pills that they have only have like a 50% success rate, if that. So, for us at our age, I think it would be focusing on prevention, which is exercise and diet. I mean, they're saying exercise is like the best thing. We know this for our bodies. But diet and exercise, and also keeping yourself engaged. So, working. A lot of times people retire and then their memory starts to fade. So there is a lot of value in being active and working. But as far as advancements go, no. And the thing is, when people get the disease, they usually have 10 to 15 years as about how it progresses. That's a long time. It's a long time for caregivers. It's a long time for that person. So, when you have that diagnosis, it's easy to go to worst case scenario, but what you really have to do, I think, to get yourself through it, and this is for caregivers as well, is you have to value what's left. So it's not what we're losing, it's what we still have. And every day it's a focus on what we still have. So if mom still likes to dance around to music, then let's play music. Let's play songs all day. Let's do what we can do to create joy and to turn on that light that's still left.
One of the things that you and I talked about that I thought was just very compassionate is if your caregivers go into the home and let's say somebody is I don't really know how to say this the correct way, but basically their mind has become like a child. And so they're wanting to play with a baby doll, and your caregivers get into this acting mode, from the best I can understand what you have them do, and engage with that person to where they play along in a safe way.
Yeah. And so, in psych medicine, we try to reorient somebody to the reality. In Alzheimer's, we say jump into their world. So it's going into their world to figure out why are they agitated. I think one of the examples I gave you was we had a client who had missed a train at some point.
Yes.
in his life, and he was stuck. And sometimes when with dementia, you can get stuck into traumatic moments of your life, which is really sad. So he would wake up in the morning and just try to leave the house. In a assisted living or in an institutional model, we may call him a wanderer, escape. We may put him in a locked unit. We may give him more medications. So our philosophy was let's figure out how we can calm him down with this. So we figured out, we would get him up in the mornings. He'd pack his little suitcase. We'd sit a chair by the door, and we had a bus ticket that we printed out, train ticket. And he would sit with his suitcase by the door at lunchtime. The train's running late. He would come and eat. And then same thing at the end of the day, we'd say, the train's coming tomorrow. We just missed the train. And he was perfectly fine waiting for that train all day. But we had to jump into his world, and we had to figure out how to make that work. Now, here's the interesting thing with Alzheimer's. That works for today, but it may not work for tomorrow. So you're constantly having to think of these ways to calm that person down and to bring them moments of joy, create moments of joy. And it's divided with the baby dolls. Some people agree with it, some people don't. I happen to agree with the baby dolls. Say you have a woman who had 6 children, and she has a lot of behavioral issues. There could be some benefit to giving her a doll. Now, hear me out. In her mind, this is a real baby. So the caregiver can't throw the baby on the ground. And it could cause a lot of anxiety if that person is worried that the baby's not going to sleep at night. So it takes a real skilled clinician to come in and see this as a benefit. But when it works well, it works well. And now you have this woman who has her purpose again, which is taking care of the baby. Which in her mind is a real child. If you Google it, there's groups of volunteers that will go into nursing homes and like bring babies for the elders and stuff. So I've seen it work beautifully.
Yeah, I tell you what, your passion for this is contagious. There's no doubt
Oh,
about it.
thank
And the time you spent with us today and sharing your 22 years experience in this field, or you've done a lot of things in this field. I love the fact that you made some time to share with us what you guys are doing at ThriveWell, how you're helping this market, because clearly there's a massive need for it.
Yeah.
Not only today, but definitely in the future. There's shortages of facilities that we, hopefully people are, the awareness part of it, I think, is just as important. Making people aware of the need for these type of facilities and this type of care. And I do agree with you on caregivers 100%, because what they do takes a special person.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And we can't forget about that, because without great caregivers, because one day they're going to take care of our family members at some point, maybe even ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And to have those people to be well respected and appreciated in this field is definitely something that we all need to do a job of.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I love that. I'm so passionate about that. Like, I've been in South Florida for about 18 years now, and I haven't seen their pay rate go up. But I have seen the workload go up, and that's a calling. Becoming a caregiver is a calling, like joining the priesthood or becoming a teacher. These people are heroes, and they're doing the work that we can't do for our parents.
Absolutely.
So, in patients' worst days, these caregivers, that's where I think you see God. When you can come in and turn an anxious person around and calm them down, or, this is a technique that we use, your voice as a song. So you can, Mr. Jones, time to get up in the morning, and you can get somebody's anxiety up. And then when it's time to bring them down, you can, okay, let's get our tea. So using your voice as a means to help someone either rile them up or calm them down. Just one of the techniques that we use. But that's where you get into the holistic thing. There's all these tools that we have that I just don't think anybody has put together in a nice little toolbox. And that's what we want to do is really empower caregivers and support them.
Kandice, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, they want to talk a little bit more, they want to learn about ThriveWell, maybe they're in the Florida area and want to know more about what you have to offer, where can they find that information?
Email me directly. Love to email me directly at Kandice.Stanley, like the cup, at ThriveWell.com. And my name's spelled kind of weird, Kandice. Stanley.
Well, again, thank you so much. I love your passion. I love your drive. I love what ThriveWell is doing. I really want to get down there and go to this new facility and see how long I'm expected to live, and then see if I can add on by living my life to the fullest, right?
If you're ever down here, both of you, just look me up. I'll give you a tour.
I'm doing it. We come
I know.
down there,
I want you to. Let's do it.
So yeah,
okay.
I am going to do it. Kandice, thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you so
being
much
on the show.
Thanks. I'm a big fan. I've been listening to your show now. So.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, good. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.